wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name, check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change, possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quench the thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic, with this logic you can't stop it. It's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic.
Built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the cast, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grieving. Put your foot on the gas, don't never stop competing, yeah.
I've been doing this, I'm on it, I just wanna be iconic. Sipping on a gin and tonic, got me going off when I'm on this topic, yeah. If I ever play, I want it, you know that I'm always honest. Stay away from those who are toxic, keep them out your face, no way, you don't want it, yeah. Don't try to drain my energy, the enemy is everything. It's mentally, unhealthily, spreading like a rare disease. But I won't let it get to me, I don't need your therapy. I can leave a legacy of leading by intensity. Come on, we can fight this, freedom is priceless. Spread just like a virus, living in a crisis. Do you feel courageous? Do you seek greatness? Trust me, you can take it, go on and take your aim, yeah.
Built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the cast, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grieving. Put your foot on the gas, no, never stop competing, yeah.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah.
Turn on your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice and control.
When we get to the FBI, we don't know who did the work. You heard that any of that information is redacted. We don't know who did the work. It's a giant secret. We know that by the time the FBI gets involved, the profile, the text file, that's a snip to use to try to identify somebody is more than twice as big when it gets to the FBI from Othram. We don't know how.
I've got an itch I can't scratch, I'm missing a piece that completes a whole part of me. An open wound scar to see. Everybody come here, gather round. Welcome to the freak show, the best in town.
What is going on, Hive? I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. Just going to check the audio per usual. Oh, yeah. We are loud and clear. And I can tell you that I am very excited for this roundtable. This is our third ever time doing it. We have Deb J, Namastella, and BoringBettyLou backstage. And the theme that I have is different minds, but we all have the same mission, which is the truth. And if you are just tuning into the Hive, welcome. This is a contrarian thinking live stream where we are not afraid to think past the headlines. So if you are offended or rattled on behalf of others, this is probably not the stream for you. However, if you like to dig into what the mainstream narrative is trying to bury and keep from the public from exposing the larger plot, well, you have found your people. And welcome. Maybe you are the conspiracy friend in your friend group, and I can promise you that you are in great company here. So I want to say what's going on to everybody. Thank you all for tuning in this evening. We're going to have a lot of interesting topics to discuss. Robin, how are you doing? Unpopular opinion 1111 Pinto Sack, how you doing? What's up, UFO dog? Les says, hey, Birdie from Kansas. Your guys' football team played pretty good, though. Rock Chalk. Lauren R., how are you doing? Rachel, who lives near the ice wall. Stacy. Gabby Girl. Dina. SoCal Lolo71 says, fellow contrarians. Let's go. What's Gucci, my Louie? That's exactly right, Germilla. Inside your bones, how are you doing? Stoogie, Copenhagen, what's up, Jay? UK Karen, Luz, Fiona, Hope, Blue-Eyed Candy, Chantilly Lace with the resting biatch face. What up? Rosie, WMVP, Paige, April in Texas. Oh, yeah, we are hanging in there. We are doing much better. Thank you for asking, Gamble. Ricky says, what's good, Birdie? Still stuck in the AC, but we're here. Good. E-Baby, how are you doing? Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. Janie, Louisiana. Social media causes brain damage. I don't disagree, but what's going on? The Hive Down Under. Discord Dawn, what up? Brittany, thank you so much. I appreciate that super sticker. It's weird because YouTube does like super chats and super stickers. So if I read them kind of awkward, I'm kind of talking before I'm reading it. But nonetheless, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Tinfoil Hat Claire, I chose your Discord question for the question of the day. Sunflower 01 into the break. Where's everybody tuning in from? Ashley's in Long Island. Let's see. Where do we got? I got to catch up on this chat. We got Pennsylvania, Brooklyn, Criminal Minds is in the house. What's good? Connecticut, Boston, Wichita, Tennessee, Indiana, Copenhagen again, New Zealand, Texas, West Virginia, Northern Michigan, South Carolina, the Wild Wild West. What up, Fiji? Northern California, Point Rock, Tennessee. Marissa, thank you so much for the super chat. She says, look at the picks. Everything is open. Rummage through. Well, I do not disagree. I have a couple of pictures this evening to show you all, and one of them has to do with Bryan Kohberger's car. I believe that we are being swindled completely. Thank you so much, SoCal Lolo. I appreciate that. Ohio, Flo Rosa or Flo Rida, the armpit of California. Sweden's in the house. Tennessee, Arizona. UFO Dog is in Verdino's basement per usual. Bottom of the boot, Louisiana. Western Pennsylvania. Ohio. Missouri. Houston, Canada, Hive Down Under, Maryland, Netherlands, Ohio, Oklahoma, UK, under a tinfoil hat. I love it. San Diego, Idaho, North Texas, New England, Hot Spokane, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, 518, Florida Keys, Illinois, Canada, North Carolina, Michigan, Washington State, and the list goes on. And I will finish with Scotland. What's going on, Fiona? Thank you all for tuning in. As a reminder, everybody, please click the subscribe button. And then when you're on my YouTube channel, press the link that says more, scroll all the way down to the bottom. You'll see the website, the TikTok, the Discord, and the Substack. If out of any of those, you only join one of those four, let it be the Discord. And on Tuesday, I will have an announcement as to why. But make sure that the app for Discord is downloaded on your phone prior to clicking that link. There's like a 5-second verification to make sure that we don't get any bots or trolls in there. And you're going to want to be a part of the Discord. We got some exciting updates coming. But those links are the 24/7 off-stream headquarters for the Hive Mind. And I keep everything 100% free. The best way to support the stream is to press that subscribe button and then the like button as well. So thank you all to everybody who does subscribe, everybody who likes the post and joins these links. I really appreciate it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to welcome up our Hive Mind Roundtable. And we have Namastella, BoringBettyLou, and Deb J. How are you all doing? Good to see you.
I'm good. Nice to see you.
Well,
Hi, Birdie. Hello, Hive.
Good to see you. And Hive, we are aware about it. Deb has a slightly blurry camera. We tried to fix it, but it sounds like it's kind of a normal thing for that whatever device.
that's because I live in California.
It's humidity.
You just have good aura.
It's the Gavin Newsom effect.
gosh.
That's why mine is
Oh,
super
gosh.
bright, because he wants to keep the light on in my house. So,
Oh, man. Well, welcome, you three. Thank you so much for submitting to be onto the Hive Mind Roundtable. I'm very excited to continue our conversation that we were having backstage. And one of the things that I want to get right into is the Discord question of the day. I think it's a good icebreaker, and it's also a question that will have a lot to talk about. So I'll get right into it. And that's from Tinfoil Hat Claire. Says, Birdie, what is the most sus comment that one of the surviving roommates makes in the newly released police body cam video?
Oh.
And I'll go first quick. I think it's a little bit odd that you heard Bethany repeat the exact same thing of, I'm not sure if it was real or if I was dreaming, because we really only ever heard Dylan say that to begin with, but you hear Bethany clear as day repeat that same line. So that's how I would answer that. I thought that was very odd. It seems very coordinated. I don't know who else wants to go,
I'll go
next, but yep.
I'll go next. I think when she says, you won't find anything at the crime scene as far as evidence because we did a deep cleaning. Well, a serial killer that's never been to your house just comes in and you hear screaming and blood running down your wall and you just turn over and go to sleep. Man, I wish I could sleep like that.
No kidding.
I wish I had
No
no
kidding.
conscience. I mean, that makes no sense. You're going to deep clean for him? That's like a cleaning company I wish I had.
No kidding. No kidding. I agree. That is a very weird one. There's so many weird ones. I just
think
saw
the whole interview.
Well,
I'm
sorry.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Nope, you go.
No,
Go ahead.
I found it really, confusing for Dylan to say in one part of her interview with the cops, that they were asleep, and then further into the conversation, she talks about hearing Kaylee scream. I mean, what is it? Is Kaylee asleep or was she screaming? And so,
And also she thought it was Xana too. She said she heard Xana scream before that.
Right, exactly.
Those are both great. I mean, I think that one of the things we have to remember, and it sounds very obvious to say, there are 4 people stabbed to death allegedly in that house.
Yes.
And they are outside of that house. And these are the answers they're giving.
Right.
And I have to give the disclaimer. It's not victim shaming or victim blaming.
Nope.
It hits a little bit different when you think about, well, what if those were your kids inside the house, and that's what you're hearing now after the fact, 2.5 years later, of how it's being described. Minimal detail, coordinated for sure. I'm sorry, that might piss people off. It seems way too coordinated. As far as
rehearsed.
It rehearsed. Yes.
Yep.
Well, how did she say that she didn't fear because she felt like he was there to protect her?
Yeah, that
as blood's running down your wall, and you could smell blood audibly. If you've ever cut your hand, you could smell blood. 4 people's blood everywhere. There's a smell in that house. Let me tell you, that's metallic.
Yeah, the iron
like
in the
nobody's
blood.
business.
Yep.
And
Namastella, what's
I
your
agree.
answer?
Mine is, I mean, yeah, it's hard to pick just one. My biggest thing is I had a peeping Tom one time. I was about 14 years old. And I turned off my bedroom light, and I used to keep coffee cups of water on my windowsill. And I saw something in my windowsill, or my window, and I thought it was a coffee cup. All of a sudden, I saw it move. I'm 14 years old. I was scared to death to even move, just to run to the door, which is like 2 feet away from me, to go tell my dad. And Dylan is screaming Kaylee's name. You don't want the killer to know you're there. Why are you screaming her name? That's what kind of got me. Is I'm not screaming nobody's name. I am under the covers. I am under the bed. I'm going to be quiet as a church mouse. That's kind of what got me the most out of, I think, everything. I'm not saying a word. Yeah, just keep on texting.
Would you, in addition to not saying a word, I hate to, it's like weird. It's like as much as I disregard the narrative, I hope that I'm not the only person that feels like it still affects when you say something out loud about it. And it's in regards to how many times we've been told, well, you weren't there. You weren't terrified. You didn't hear this. And
yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
No. Well, just to finish it real quick, what I was going to say is it does affect us, even though we know that something inside of us is telling you, although you may have been hiding, I would have been dialing 911 fast as hell.
Nobody did. That's why I kind of gave the story about the peeping Tom. Is no, I'm not in a situation where 4 people are being brutally murdered. You're just supposed to be my friends. But I was afraid to even move a muscle. It took me probably a good 5 minutes to muster up the 2 feet my doors from me. I've been in a bit of a situation, not like that, but I'm not. No. It's so scripted. It's so made up. I feel like they did go somewhere. They went out the window. They did something, and somebody got together with them, and they came up with this little.
It sounds like damage control. It sounds like because her first statement, she made a mess of it, and she told the truth, and then they had to come up with a narrative that tried to explain the damage control from her running her mouth.
Yeah.
Excuse my language. I mean, that's. You know what I mean? Because I think she told partly the truth, and then they had to cover it up and try to, that's why it's a dream. That's why it's, trying to excuse that because it was the
different every single time. Yeah, different every single time. Something, even if it's just a tiny tweak, something is different. You feel like it is to cover something else up because it does. And and
Bethany was dressed in her jersey, ready for the game, ready for the football game.
I didn't even notice. I didn't watch a lot of it. I watched some of it just because I honestly, I needed a break. The more information I tend to get, the worse it gets, the more confused I am, the more I feel like everybody's lying. And then I'm back to where, is it a psyop? Is it a setup from drug dealers? Is it this? Is it that? So I just had to take a break, honestly, for a couple of days. Just kind of get ready for this, Yeah. So.
Well, I agree with Blue Eye Candy. She said the police didn't push them. The other thing is not one of the cops asked any of them why, or Bethany or Dylan, why didn't you call the police? I mean, as a police officer, you would think that would be the second or third question out of their mouth.
Good observation. I didn't catch it. Yeah,
it's
good
like
observation.
If I was a cop, I would be saying, Chico, why didn't you call the police?
Yeah.
You waited 8 hours. I mean, I'm sorry. You said you were asleep. Then you said you were awake. If you were awake and you heard screams.
I would hope even if that you knew that I drank that much all the time, that I was blacked out, that you wouldn't wait 6 or 8 hours for me to see if I died in the meantime. I mean, really think about that. If I wasn't responding and that I drank and partied, I would hope to God you wouldn't wait 8 hours to see if I made it out alive.
If she saw Xana, she knows she wasn't drunk and passed out. I'm sorry, I'm not buying
No, but
that.
that's what
for
I'm saying.
nothing.
Even as a friend, these are your friends. These are your
Yeah,
college
yeah.
buddies that you drink and party with. I would hope to God that if I drank that much all the time, that it was normal that I would black out. But after 8 hours, you haven't heard me. I mean, I would hope that like 15 minutes I didn't respond. You would have checked on me at least. Kicked the door.
Why didn't you
in,
call
whatever,
Hunter?
You know?
Yeah, why didn't you call Hunter then? Come
Right.
on, call anybody. Yeah, agreed.
Yes.
And it's funny
So-
that Dylan's boyfriend, Quentin, drove a 4x4 truck that had a loud exhaust. And there's a picture of it on Reddit. Did you see that? Of her standing in front of Quinn's truck, which is identical to the truck that's listed on that's on the 112 footage, parked on the side. There's a picture
Do
of
not
her.
have read it. I just got to, what do you call it, Discord. I got to take a break.
Yeah, there's a picture
Okay.
of actually standing in front of Quinn's truck.
Wow.
Yeah, the white truck.
No,
Boring
it's
Betty
black.
Lou?
No, it's black.
It's a black
It's
truck.
black.
Yeah,
4x4,
I've seen it
which is
before.
if you see the
Yep.
apartment from where it's standing in the front, there's a black 4x4 truck.
Yep.
And the exhaust is loud. That
With an
rumble-
exhaust.
in the one footage, you could see a truck go around and come down farther, rumbling.
You can hear it.
That's the same
Yeah.
exact truck. My friend has the same truck, and it sounds just like that.
Yep.
It's a black 4x4. Dylan's standing in front of it, and it even says it's on Reddit, and it literally says, she's like, yeah, look at my boyfriend's truck, like waving her hand like this. And it's a black 4x4. And on the 112, if you see where the apartment's on the right side, where you could see the windows down farther, there's a black 4x4 truck like that, parked just like that.
So, wow, that's interesting. And I've always thought that the exhaust is something that's very distinguished. Like you guys, if you've been tuning in the Hive, you've seen the car park footage that we did where it pulls up, looks like a black Mustang, then it kind of backs into a Pathfinder. Then when it leaves, it's kind of a black truck. So
That was
it's a-
crazy.
yeah, no, it for sure was crazy. But I thought that this question was a good icebreaker to kind of get into the general gist of what the Hive Mind Roundtable is. And so, again, if you're new here, what I do is every month I open up my email to allow members of the Hive to submit to be on the Hive Mind Roundtable to share their thoughts, their experiences, their perspective around, well, right now it's around the Idaho 4, but I think it's important because there's a lot of people in here that have amazing comments, amazing Hive Mind finds, and I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to hear from people in the Hive, and I always enjoy these streams. So these are typically the last Sunday of every month. I moved it up a week this time just due to Labor Day. So like I was saying, most of the time, almost every other time, it's going to be the last Sunday of the month. And I wanted to ask everybody here, is there a moment in this case where you had thought Bryan Kohberger actually did this?
Sure.
I'm saying you could go back from the first headline that you saw till today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, way
Okay.
back at the beginning. I live in a small town. It's called LaConner, Washington. And nobody stalk me, please. Not that I'm stalkable enough. But anyway, it's less than 1,000 people. It's a pretty small town. Well, guess who lives here? The Chapins.
The Chapins live
They
in your
had
town?
Yep, they had Ethan's Memorial at the place I used to work at a couple months ago. We're moving, so I ended up quitting. But yeah,
Wow.
when you see them, yeah, there was a moment that tugged at me, and I had to reevaluate what I was thinking. That I literally went back into the evidence. And this is when they didn't take everything off the table. All we have left really is DNA, and I don't think it's going to be long before that. In my opinion, the chain of custody already screws that up. I don't think there's anything that they have, but that's before, all the what do you call it, the plea deal. But yeah, there was a moment where I looked at them and I'm like, you know what, maybe I need to think about this again. Sure. Why not? But there's just nothing there. There just isn't anything there. And my heart breaks for them. They're lovely people. But I'm not even convinced they think he did it. Or being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Boring Betty Lou?
I think for me, when a little bit of the evidence started coming out, my thought was, what if he did plan the perfect murder? Because he then takes all these people, and you have who is better than having the public to stand behind you to do all the basically to get all this. Okay, he got caught, but then it's like at the same time, his brain could have been smart enough to be like, well, if I do this and say this, then all these people are going to investigate and it's going to make me, like exonerate me. And that's what kind of crossed my mind. But then as I watched him and I saw him, his demeanor doesn't. This crime, I mean, I'm a true crime fanatic, and that was my major in college. And his behavior he never showed an ego like, I did this. There was never a sense of pride in him, ever. And if you look at Ted Bundy, there was always a sense of pride. Gacy, all of them had that narcissism in them, that it was a cat and mouse game. He never conveyed that to me. To me, his demeanor was, he's autistic. Someone told him, shut up, be quiet, look straight ahead, don't show any emotion. And that's what he did. He follows directions and structure. And almost, if you think what a POW is in a military Navy SEAL, when they're caught, they don't even blink, because if they blink, it shows that they're from there. That's what his behavior says to me. His staring straight ahead. It's not that he's psycho. He never once showed any emotion. And to me, even serial killers or killers, when they're on the stand and the families are testifying, they've been known to talk crap, laugh. He showed nothing. It was almost like there was this like, I'm stuck in here and I can't get out of it. And I never saw that narcissism. I never saw that, like, I'm proud of it. There's never, I got away with this. Even if he got caught, I never saw that. And that's what kind of like convinced me that I don't believe this kid did it. I don't think he's capable. As much as he's a crime fanatic, just because you're a crime fanatic, I'm not, I couldn't be a killer. And I love crime. I love deep digging, and that, because I like it, doesn't make me a killer. And I don't see that in him. I don't see that killer aspect. If you look at all the giant serial killers or not, I mean, you don't see that in him. I don't see that. A kid that calls his mama and loves his mama and worries about his parents and his dog when he gets arrested, it's not somebody that just butchered 4 people in the way that they were killed.
Right.
I agree. And I do think that one of the things that slipped through the cracks to the public, whether by design or people were so blinded by the narrative, was Bill Thompson and the investigators admitting, well, he would have everything on his phone and computer that any other criminology student would have. And yes, that might be a like broken record talking point. Well, go on YouTube, listen to the news, read the articles. The talking point of, well, he's a criminology student, so he knows how to get away with it, he just made a mistake, is still more prominent than ever as far as how he got to the point that he did. So I agree with you, Betty Lou.
There's a difference in killing. Columbine's a good example. It's a big difference when you're going to blow the skull up or shooting someone close at range. And Dylan Klebold couldn't do it. He let multiple victims go, literally let them go. Where Eric Klebold shot 9 people. You say the difference between the narcissistic and the kid that wanted to die. I mean, that's a good example. If you look at that it's a lot different to stab somebody up close, and head may say thing, but to actually watch somebody die in that brutal manner or shoot somebody from afar. There's a big difference. There's that personal aspect, and I don't think he carries that. I don't see that in him.
I agree. And I think I bought the story, and I started to doubt it a little bit when I first saw his booking picture back in Pennsylvania, because just like you said, Boring Betty Lou, the straight ahead stare, the non-emotion, and then it got more baked in for me when it came out that he was autistic. And as we were talking about backstage, I have an autistic grandson. I mean, I know what that's like. I know how they function. I know how they think. It just seemed impossible to me at that point that he could have done this, especially 4 people. And then as the onion, started to continue to peel back, and they said, well, they were all asleep. And then they said, no, they weren't all asleep. And they thought that Xana ran from downstairs upstairs and he chased her. I'm like, no, there's no way. This autistic guy, first of all, there's no way he could have manhandled 4 people, even if Chapin was passed out and the other 2 girls were completely asleep and drunk. Just encountering Xana, I think would have made him turn and run.
In 7 minutes in a house he's never been in.
Right.
Well, they like regiment. They want to know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, you kind of cut out Namastella.
I couldn't do that.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, autistic people, they like regiment. They like a schedule. They want to know what they're doing. They want to know what they're getting into. The blood alone would have
Thank you.
lost his noodle.
He would have been in a corner rocking himself like Rain Man.
Right.
Yes, agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's but what's interesting is while yes, you may like we make this point and people can say it's kind of like when you say the word autism, people they hear it and kind of their alert goes up, right? And everybody's been around people with autism on all ranges, right? And all severity.
Right.
But it's kind of like when you have been around it and you see it, you just recognize, you could just tell. And I feel like in a lot of the police body cam footage that when he's pulled over, whether the narrative said it or not, you can almost just, if you've been around it, you just kind of, when you see it, you know.
Hey, Birdie, my son is a GATE student. He's super high IQ. And when he got tested and when they were going to put him in there, they made us, my son's school made us as parents go to a program to teach. It's called the GATE syndrome. When children are super smart, high IQ, they have the question, they have to know everything. Why does the wheels work? Why does this happen? Why can't I cross the street? When you know that about an intelligent child, a high IQ, which is on the spectrum, autistic children are extremely smart. My son is extremely smart. He's not autistic, but he's high IQ. He has to know everything when he was little. Why do the wheels roll? A normal kid just says, look at that car. My son was like, what's the engine in that car? Why does the engine do this? Why does that this? And it's that constant question. And if you see him, Bryan Kohberger, he wasn't belittling her. His brain literally couldn't understand why the law was that. So he's referencing, so what was the right thing to do? Do I pull up here? Do I pull up here? Because that's how his brain works. That's the GATE syndrome. That's why he had excelled in school, because he could focus. He was high ending as far as education, you know, but and he was socially awkward. And people understand he was also an IV drug user. And anybody that's been around an IV drug user, they're weird. They creep people out. Drug addicts do weird things. Bryan Kohberger was a drug addict. That's why his behavior is weird. And add autism on top of it, you got an A1 creep compared in society, compared to somebody that's maybe had a recovering addict or been around it. You add all this together. Of course, he's socially awkward. He's autistic. He's shooting drugs. And you know what I mean? He's got to be weird. Like, you know, on top of things, it's like you get all this stuff that they came out with. He was weird and he did this and he's socially awkward. I'm socially awkward. I'm not a killer. You mean put me in a room of people normally and I'm the person that says like three things and it's something stupid. Like, hey, I like that shirt, you know, as opposed to like people that are socially adept. I mean, this poor kid got drugged to the gutter because they couldn't find anything. So we'll just belittle him and make people think that he's a creep, because nobody likes a creep.
I agree. And I think that when it's almost like you ever hear it, you know what? I'll restart that. This is something that I'll kind of talk about that really bothers me in like a personal setting is when you're around your friends and they're talking about somebody that you don't know, and they either talk about them extremely highly or they're kind of shitting on them. And then you've never met that person, but then you go and meet that person. When you're honest with yourself, what's your friends that you do know and what they said, it does affect when you meet that person, whether you let it out externally. We got to all be honest with ourselves. Internally in your mind, you're already maybe tipping the scale that way. Now, that's not a proud thing. I think there's a human nature aspect to it. Exactly. But now think about it from Bryan Kohberger's standpoint. Think about it from anybody that's getting drugged through the mud on the news, especially associated with a quadruple homicide. And then why that really, really irks me when the narrative is very falsely painted is think about all of the opportunities that Bryan Kohberger has lost from a credible, powerful defense attorney to come and defend him and show these things. Because if you have a really high, outstanding reputation, I'm sorry, you're probably not going to take this case just due to the media flack. You got to think about your firm, and you got to think about your partners, and you got to think about whatever else all goes into that. While, yes, you may believe in justice, there's a human factor and a judgment factor that goes into it, especially on this scale, which is sad. So
It's a little bit of clout factor.
Right.
Just like Shapiro and all them. They didn't take OJ's case because of that. They took it because now they're national. They'll forever be known as a dream team. Put them on the map.
And you know, I've always thought that if you were a defense attorney that was waiting for a big break of a case, this is the case. This is the case to jump headfirst, like right into the deep end. But I find it very hard to wrap my head around that if you're a capable defense attorney, you wouldn't be able to prove reasonable doubt in this case.
I don't know why she let him plea. I don't understand. That's what I can't wrap my mind around, is that they fought so hard and all that stuff. Like, I would have taken it to the box. I would have had nothing to lose. If that was me, I don't and I knew, I would have taken it to the box because I would have gotten it anyways. I knew that if I lost, I had a chance to win. When all this stuff they had to prove it, and all these people, like all the witnesses really came on the stand. That's what really, to me, that's what it really proved, when they're all stumbling over each other. I would have let them go out there and stumble all over each other and taken my chance, because what did I have to lose? He took life sentences anyways. He literally let them win. And you're sitting there looking at most of her emotions were right on. If you look at the documents now, you know, you look at it, and he knew and she knew. Why did you give up? Why did she let him take that plea? That's what I understand.
I think she was forced to.
Yeah.
I think that when they shot that fireman, that was it. I think he was so worried about his parents. His first words in his interview were, "I need to make sure that my parents and my dog are okay." That's somebody that's been threatened. That's somebody that fears for his family's life.
I think they were all threatened. I mean, I have a friend that lives in Spokane, and he told me a few months ago that this whole Aryan night thing is way bigger in that Pacific Northwest than people realize.
Wait till I show you the document that Bertie's going to bring up.
Yeah,
you'll see how it ties together.
He said that, you know, they own the cops, they own the judges, and you don't mess with them because it's known that they will just take you out. They will slice you and dice you quicker than you can cut a watermelon. So,
well, if your dad's a prosecuting attorney, if your dad's the prosecutor, you could pretty much not call the cops for 8 hours, right?
Do you think that, well, yeah, of course. And I think that there's an aspect of this case that more and more people are starting to realize. If it feels like it's not real, like real life is messy, is what I'm getting at. Real life is chaotic. Real life is, you know, okay, I can understand from an outside party looking in why somebody would say that under duress. But there's things in this case that feel like they're just making it look that way. Like they want to make it look like to the outside person they're under duress. But when you look at this case as much as we have, and whether fortunately or unfortunately it gets put into the world news, again, it's not the creator's fault. It's not the people in the Hive's fault that look at it and go, hold on. I could wrap my head around certain things that are inconsistent. Like if you change your story from you heard her scream someone's in the house to, well, I heard her scream somebody's name, right? Like just a little bit things. You still heard her scream. You still heard her running down the stairs. It was panicked. But both roommates that were home while 4 people were stabbed said they don't know if it was real and they might have been dreaming on the body cam footage.
Hey, Bertie, I got a question for you. Do you ever feel like this is a giant experiment? Like a mind control experiment? Yeah. That's what I feel sometimes. I feel like we're all sitting here and they're watching us like the hamsters on the wheels when they feed us this bit of information, and they're watching everybody spinning around like the one episode you did where it's like the mind control, because some of it's like, it seems so surreal that all these people, all these players, none of them speaks up, but then they're going along. It's like a chess game. And then when people catch on to something, they're like, oh, let's throw this for another narrative and see how the hamster wheel goes this way if they're going to take to it. It's almost like a greater experiment sometimes. That's how I feel. Like it's literally just like, let's just go play with everybody and see if this actually works for something that's going to happen later on.
And this is a good time to do, because I've seen more people in the Hive right now on the chat saying psyop or it's fake or whatever. And again, disclaimer, nobody here is saying that if Bryan Kohberger did it, we want him to get away with it and a murderer to walk free. Right. But please wrap your head around and don't get mad at the messenger, because I'm just telling you guys, if you've never heard this before, don't think that the technology does not exist to fake a multi-victim attack and make the world believe it, to push an agenda of the top 1% of the 1% to get all of us, the useless eaters, as some people call us, to fall into line and beg them to govern us and surveil us harder. So I will say this.
Exactly.
Type of 1, if you think that this is corruption. Type of 2, if you think it's some sort of psychological operation.
You want a prime example of that? I live in California. So California got rid of all right after COVID, because they were tough on crime, tough on drugs. So they basically got rid of it all. Everyone ran rampant. Okay. I live by the Mouse House, if you know where that's at. So we used to have a police department. You couldn't even jaywalk. They were on top of you. Then it got to be where cars were getting stolen left and right. My parents got their car. I mean, the crime was so bad that somebody that was like anti-government was literally like, we need some rules here. They let it get so bad they wouldn't do anything, to now when on the ballot they voted for super harsh penalties. So what they did was they played the narrative. Okay, we'll give you what you want. We're going to take away some of the penalties and not be tough on crime. So people got so sick of it that when they brought it back with the tougher penalties, people were like, hey, let's get it. Mind control right there. That was a perfect example. Is we gave you what you wanted, because then you can't say that we didn't give you the chance to be not tough on crime. You don't go to jail for drugs and all this homelessness. And now it's a felon to be homeless. It's all this stuff that when they voted in, because even myself was like, man, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of going to Carl's Jr. and somebody's, using drugs in the drive-thru in front of my son. Like, even to that point. So they did what we wanted, fed it to us, and then they got the end result, because we can't say that they didn't give it to us. We did it ourselves. There's a good prime example of like this case.
Yep.
They create a problem and then they create the solution. Yeah.
Man. Well, I'm so happy to be talking to you three, and then also just talking amongst the Hive, because there are some people that their heads would explode when you would say the government would create a problem just to then provide the solution. They wouldn't even be able to comprehend that on the simplest level. And it's sad. I mean,
It is sad. That's
Can't believe it.
In all probability,
to do them in.
Yep.
Right. I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Aryan Knights aren't being funded by the elites, and that they're basically drug runners for the elites. Who's ultimately making the money at the top? It's probably the elites.
So did you know that right after after this happened, the attorney general for Idaho, got a $58.6 million lawsuit against the opioid pharmaceutical companies that was distributed to an Idaho opioid fund that is now being under investigation for faulty claims.
What do you mean against? Wait, so the government...
So the attorney general for Idaho, okay.
Yep.
So after this murder, the attorney general, which voted into office, sued 7 pharmaceutical companies for massive distribution of opioids into Idaho and won a $58.6 million lawsuit. I actually have the website on there, which goes into the Idaho fund, because they said that they brought in Oxycontin, fentanyl, all this stuff, and distributed it, and it made their citizens opioid addicts. So he won that in January of 2023. His name is Lombardo. It's actually, I have it written down. It's a website. If you go on to Kootenai News, it's a newspaper coming out of Kootenai County. So I don't know. It's KOOT.
Yep. Kootenai
County. It'll show you that Attorney General Lombardo won a $58.6 million lawsuit against seven pharmaceutical companies. 40% of that gets distributed into an Idaho opioid fund. The other 40% gets distributed into local counties, and the other 20% goes to health foundations. The Idaho Trust Fund is now under investigation for corruption for false claims that the money got distributed to charities that weren't real. But I find that funny that they got the Fetty brothers conviction, the 3 Fetty brothers. And then the same day that Kohberger took his plea is when the FBI indicted Jesse James Bailey and the head leaders of the Aryan Knights. the exact same day is when they came out with the indictment.
Is it Lombardo or Labrador?
Labrador. I'm sorry, Labrador. I was thinking it was like a Lamborghini. That's what my brain said, but it's Labrador or Easy Attorney General. And the headline is that he secured a he basically
I found one for 24 million, but
if you read the article, the initial one was 56.8 million. When you go down, or 24, then you'll go into 58, 56, and it tells how it's distributed into 40% for the Idaho opioid fund, another 40% for local communities or local counties, and 20% for healthy or health centers. If you go up in there, no, that's not it. I can tell you right now. I have it written down.
Okay.
It's it says that it's the Kootenai Journal, so it's KOOTENAI Journal.
Yep. And
it's on July 15th, 2025. And it's a press release from Attorney General Raul Labrador. Announced $720 million nationwide with settlements in against 8 drug makers that manufactured opioid pills and worsened the nationwide opioid crisis. Idaho you see it? Idaho initially received $2.6 million based on the volume, and then he secured a nearly $60 million, which would be the other $58.6 million against the pharmaceutical companies. And 40% goes to the Idaho Opioid Fund, 40% against among cities. And this was in 2023.
Wow.
Which I find that funny that happened right after these. So they got the Aryan Knights, they got the Fetty brothers. And then they indicted the Aryan Knights the exact same day that Kohberger took his plea.
Again, I'm sure you're just a conspiracy theorist.
I am. Oh.
And you're also very not boring, Betty Lou. Your title is not descriptive. I've seen.
Well, if you picture boring Betty Lou, you thought I should have a house coat and some rollers on, so it's kind of like the kind of like a juxtapose. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm anything but.
Well, so go ahead.
No, you go, Deb. Sorry.
I was going to say, and even down to the judge, Hippler, I'm sure that was a placement. I looked into some of his background, and, he was involved with the Idaho Board of Education. There's the tie into the school. There's, how much control does the school have on the town? Did the house get torn down at the demand of the school because they didn't want any further evidence found, or if it went to trial, they didn't want people to be able to go out there and have a jury walk through the place and so on. So all these things come up. But even further back, Hitler's family was in the banking cartel all the way back to the Blackbird mines of gold and silver time. So, they were a cartel family. So he's raised not probably being, the most moral and upstanding human. Let's just put it that way.
Well, what is your guys' thoughts? And you guys can each kind of maybe give a couple sentences on this. Like, what is your thoughts on the importance of tracing back family lineage to corruption? Because I heard this analogy about the mob. Okay. The mob was alive and well in a lot of people's lifetime here in the Hive. To think that it just disappeared because the FBI got involved and completely shut it down is a little bit maybe arrogant to think about. When it's probably just underground.
No, it's not. It's this Teamsters union. That's the mob. That's
the
mob.
Or they brand it differently. Brand it differently.
There's new names.
Yeah. They changed the definition of it. So, I mean, like when you bring up Hitler and all that, maybe a lot of people are like, oh, okay. But it's interesting because, people's grandparents, and you think about how much maybe easier power was to gain back in those days. Like if gaining power now, I believe it's harder to gain it with the actual people that are like the puppet masters. You have to be generations in, I think, at this point. if you're going to get into it, or you have to be some sort of like unicorn to get in. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Dukes of Hazzard, just the good old boys. That's exactly what it is. If you look back east, it's all old money. They still have plantations. They still have, a good example was the Bushes. They were in the oil industry. I mean, that's where the money comes from. Old money talks. Moscow was built on old money. And when the old money greases the hand, my little brother went to an all-male Catholic school that is built on money. Let me tell you, one of my brother's best friends lived next to Snoop Dogg, and his grandfather created duct tape. That kid could do no wrong. He'd get pulled over and just, that's like you could see the money transfer bank accounts. And,
he had hundreds really on a duct tape roll.
It is. It's just like, it's like, I like to say like this, well, they're not making it rain. They're just making your kid go free. They're making your record go away. And, it's really the truth. If you look in, good example is there's a thing, it's called bad lip reading. And they have one on the Senate floor. And if you don't listen to what people are saying, it's actually footage of all the senators and congressmen on the floor. Take a look at that. It's really creepy at all the side shady conversations going on that you can't hear. You could see people talking, and you could see on their face that it's like a dirty deal and a dirty deal here and a dirty deal. And these are the people that are literally in charge of our money, our lives, our everything. If you think about it, like we can't do anything. And just like our right to vote, it's like you go cast a ballot and it's like they might as well, when your ballot goes in, there's a machine on the other side that just shreds it. Because really, it's making people think they have a say when we really don't. If you don't have money, no honey. I mean, that's the same thing. Yeah. Like you're not getting anything. And in the criminal world, I can't tell you how many people have been convicted and put on death row for crimes that they didn't commit because they were poor, have been exonerated. The people that come from poor areas. And it's really ridiculous. Whereas you look at people that have money. A good example was the kid that essayed the swimmer, violently. And they literally let him off because they said that he was going to be an Olympic swimmer and they didn't want to damage his Olympic dreams. Because his parents had money.
Brock dude? Was that Brock dude? Yeah.
Think about that. They had every footage. He destroyed that girl. And the judge said, I'm going to give him probation because he has a chance to go to the Olympics and we don't want to ruin his Olympic career. Because they had money. Think about that. That's a prime example. Bryan Kohberger doesn't have money. Think about that. He doesn't have money.
Right.
He was a good patsy because he's autistic. He's weird. They knew he had a drug history. It was like he was a perfect shoe. And if you could pick somebody to be a patsy because he had nothing to stand on.
Let me ask you guys this, and I'm curious to hear from all of you. I've talked about how the thing that really makes me passionate, yet this case is interesting, very interesting, and it's a maze, but it still ties back to the common denominator of what I'm passionate about, which is like narrative warfare. I can't stand how people just absorb the headlines and they don't dig into it. What do you think is the biggest like absorbed headline about the Idaho 4 case? Mine would be that Bryan Kohberger stalked the victims. It drives me up a wall when I hear that. Yet they say he had no connection and they can't figure out or place him in the house. Is just mind-boggling to me. Or I guess we'll start with Namastella. Namastella, what's your thought on that? What's like the one headline you can't stand?
That DNA is God.
That what?
That's all they have left. That DNA is DNA is God.
Yeah.
DNA is God. They have that one little piece of touch DNA, and that is just the end all to be all. And it's nothing. It's nothing. That's my biggest thing is you can destroy that DNA, but people won't listen because they think that DNA is God.
I don't disagree. The DNA also drives me up a wall. There's like probably 5 headlines that I would be like, nah, actually, I'd choose that as a number 1. But they all make me go equally crazy. The DNA is up there. The stalking's up there. And I would say that if you didn't have the stalking narrative, then the DNA would hit different. And the DNA probably would be discredited maybe more easily when you hear all the shenanigans around that. But because it's so burned into people's minds because of these talking suits that he stalked them, they're like, well, right. Of course he's there. So, and I don't know if Deb, what would you say yours is?
No, I kind of agree with that. I mean, I think that, the whole narrative of saying that he was constantly they were able to track that he had been within the vicinity of the house. So that ties in with the whole stalking thing, right? It's like, I mean, I think in one case, it was brought out that he was at Target down the street. It just so happened that he was pinging off of the tower that was closest to the property. I mean, those are the types of things that really start to make this whole case fall apart. I think the idea that there was really no evidence. The cops walk in there. When we watched that video with you the other day, Bertie, of the police cams, I mean, I was sitting here just falling out of the chair going, whoa, they're walking through the door and there's nothing. There's nothing. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. You know, there's not one bloody footprint, not one. I don't care how good a cleaner you are. Those two girls, and they could have had help from 10 other people for all we know. You know, they're bound to miss something. I mean, you're tracking blood across carpeting and everything else. I'm sorry. It just all of those headlines around all of that. No evidence. Where's the evidence? We have evidence. Where is it?
That too. The headline talking point of, okay, you Kohberger, there's so much evidence against him. And it's like, can you please tell me? I would love to hear actually, and like an objective piece of evidence that would be hard to argue against. I would say the DNA is probably the quote hardest to argue against because it would take
right
a rather thorough explanation. But the simplest question, I'll go back to that, or the simplest questions rather, I'll go back to that YouTube comment that I read on screen from, now I'm forgetting her name, but she's a defense attorney where she said, my office would have never taken this because I would have said, can you identify Bryan Kohberger in that car? Can you guarantee me that it's in a launcher? Can you see the license plate? No further questions. And I would sit down. And then it went into, so why would somebody turn off their phone if they don't have service? And you'd let the person on the stand answer the questions and be like, oh, so there are other reasons besides committing a murder that you would turn your phone off. No further questions. And you would go down that talk path. The DNA seems a little bit longer of an answer, but I so far, I mean, Namastella and Deb, I agree with those. I think they all tie in. And what do you think, BoringBettyLou?
I think it's the sheath, the DNA. But if anybody doesn't recall, all of a sudden they had a friend from his childhood that the dad claimed that Bryan Kohberger used to steal his military knives. So that's a narrative, right? Because it's a military sheath that they found, because that's when the sheep are like, they bite on anything, because if you give them some pasture, they're going to veer and chomp on that and take it to the bit. I mean, that's the same thing, because if you think that that's subliminal in the back of your mind, oh, well, he used to steal because it's somebody's parent, right? And you would think that somebody's parent would get on this, come out here and be like, oh, he was stealing from me as a kid, but then he was a drug addict and he was a fat kid and, nobody liked him because he was a creep, so you're adding in all these things. But where did that guy come from? Where's that guy been? I mean, he came out, made that one statement that Bryan Kohberger used to come. He thinks it was him stealing the military knives because he had an obsession with them. Convenient. Military sheath, military from the, it's like a side buster comes in, narrates it in here. The sheep keep it in here. Real people are like, oh, that's crap. Let's go. But the other people like ruminate. It's like a marble just going around in your brain. And then they take that sideways. I mean, it's really ridiculous. If you look back and see, this is like the worst book I've ever read. If you were a kid, there used to be those name your own adventure where it's the beginning and then you could pick the different chapters to finish off how you want. That's what this case
like
is
the Goosebumps books.
Exactly.
Right?
It's like
yeah.
You have like 3 different chapters. You can go, oh, he's going to go to Narnia, or here he's going to go get the DNA sheath. I mean, that's what it feels like in here. It's like Nancy Drew, but you know what I mean? It's like a cheap version that you got in a 99-cent store. It's ridiculous. It's not even Nancy Drew. It's like Bill Thompson and the Clone of Idiots. I mean, that's really what we're at. That's a good book series, actually. We should write it, Bertie.
Yeah.
The Idaho 4 in the case of the bumbling idiots.
You know what's funny? That's a very catchy title, and it would set the scene for exactly what would be inside of that book.
It's nothing, just blank pages. There'd be no evidence. It's just a title page, and then there's nothing on the inside. You can just fill in the blanks because that's what they did. There was no evidence.
it's the NPC like emoji crying face on every page.
Yeah,
That's
and
just
when
like
you open
looking.
it up, when you open it up, you have to write your own adventure because there's really nothing in this case, just the nice sheath. That's the only thing there.
You fill in your own story because that's just as good as the narrative.
But they pay for it.
Man.
They'd line up because, you know, if Bill Thompson put his name on it, it must be true, right?
Yeah,
I can
absolutely.
just write the end, and then they'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to buy it. It's a bestseller."
You could just, it's like when you go to certain like chain stores, you'll see the as seen on TV sections. You could just put that book right there too. Like this is as seen on TV. So that people are going to buy it. It's like the ShamWow.
I could even have a book signing and sign somebody else's name and nobody would even notice. I could sign like Bill Blowhard and they'll be like, "Oh, this is Betty Lou. She signed it." 5 years later, they're like, "Oh crap. What's that in there?"
No. We would seal the handwriting analysis for 90 years before they could
It might
test
be a single cell handwriting sample. I don't know.
Oh man. Well, okay. So what I'm going to do now is Boring Betty Lou, you had sent me an ISP document. So Deb and Namastella, I'm going to let Boring Betty Lou kind of get into it, but please, if either of you two have anything to comment on in regards to Special Agent O'Neill and this this report, I'm gonna kind of make it a little bit bigger, so if you can read it off the screen. But this is, I think it was 283.
Yeah, it's document 283 in ISP docs.
Okay, all right. The floor is yours, Boring Betty Lou.
This, I have to give credit to Pavarotti because Pavarotti did bring this up, but it fit into what I was looking for. So in this, it shows that Tyson Farley was arrested. Okay, afterwards, we all know that he got arrested with Tanya Rhodes in a Dollar Tree parking lot for having 27 fentanyl pills and a couple pounds of meth and some other stuff. And he was on probation. He was also released on his own recognizance to go to his grandmother who was in the hospital. If you read this documentation, it shows on the one that I was able to find one where you could see it underlined. This is a tip that came into Bill Thompson, okay, of someone claiming that they had information from the jail about the Idaho murders. So if you read it, it says on October 29th, Idaho State Police Detective Sergeant Darren Gilbertson, who is known to Tyson Farley because Detective or Police Officer Gunderson is married to his cousin. Little known fact. To follow up a tip from Tyson Farley, who has stated he had information on the quadruple homicides that occurred in Moscow. Tyson Farley is an Idaho State Correctional inmate and was interviewed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation Special Agent Ryan. Now, this came into Bill Thompson. Why would, if you had information on the Idaho 4, would it not go to Moscow PD? Why would you send it over immediately to the FBI Special Agent Ryan O'Neill, which was strike number one. Number two, it says that he made numerous claims during the interview about circumstances surrounding the murders and who was involved. He stated the house where the murders took place was a location where he provided security, which was Tyson Farley sitting in the white car, which drives away at 426 on there. Okay. And stating that he was there where he provided security to individuals who delivered unknown items to the house. He stated they did not know that they were delivering, but understood that what they were doing was illegal. If you hear in the one footage, someone says, "I see you, Farley," which would have been him sitting on the side street parked. He stated that he referenced several individuals by nicknames, but did not know any full legal names. His main associations were, I wasn't able to see that. But it says on one of their trips, he stated that they were leaving Lewiston and heading for Moscow when a car crash happened in front of them. Well, the car crash that he's referring to was Nicholas Moswich, who was an Indian. He was a Native American on the Nez Perce Ranch, who is the person that they found walking 5 miles away, disoriented from the crashed white Elantra, who was registered to Jesse James Bailey, who is the head of the Aryan Knights' wife. Also, a mile from the hostel where Tyson Farley was found with his warrant.
Which that's this one.
Yes.
Just so everybody can
That's
the
the Elantra.
This.
So there
Right
was an
there.
Elantra 2011. White Elantra was found crashed. Okay.
Yep.
Kohberger, and initially they stated that it was a 2011-2013 until January after they saw what Kohberger's car was. They switched it to 2013 to 2016. This is a 2011 Elantra, okay, which was found crashed 5 miles from where this kid was found with stab wounds consistent to being stabbed and hand injuries. Okay, he passed away. Okay, he's also the Nez Perce Ranches or Nez Perce Reservation is also where the Fetty boys were found hiding when they arrested him. Nicholas Moswich was 4 years sober when his mother states that someone that he used to have associations with in the Fetty brothers in an article came and talked to him, and he never came home. He was found with stab wounds bad enough that there's another document in there that the coroner from Lewiston took a DNA swab and sent it because she thought it had something to do with that. The injuries were consistent with being stabbed. Okay, so he states that the driver was ejected through the front windshield but survived. There's the car. And it says that the murders occurred on November 13th, which by his statement would mean that the accident occurred on October 13th. It didn't. It actually occurred on November 15th. I searched ISP District 2 calls from this date and did not locate any crashes that match the description. I then contacted the Nez Perce County Sheriff's Department and requested they check to see if the Sheriff's Department or Lewiston Police Department responded to any crashes. Why he's from the Nez Perce Reservation, why would he call there of all places? Why would he just happen to think about that? Why would he just say, pick out of all the places, Kootenai, all that, pick the Nez Perce Ranch, which is where they found the Fetty brothers hiding, which is where this kid was a Nez Perce Indian that Farley is claiming that they unalived, okay, with the stab wounds and the knife markings on his hand that the coroner literally found was enough to send a DNA swab over, which is in the ISP documents. Okay. So
I want to just back up quick though, too, because I think you said November 15th. You had meant October 15th for the.
No,
crash,
this is when
correct?
Farley's saying that it was October 15th. He actually died December or November 19th.
Okay.
He's claiming that because what he wants to do, and if you see, even Paul already kind of explained it, is he wants to get Bill Thompson's attention that he knows what's going on. So you're going to get me out because I don't want to sit in here anymore. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Because why would this went directly to Bill Thompson? This didn't go to the FBI. This was the narrative that was given. This message passed to Bill Thompson, who in turn looked at it, passed it directly to FBI agent Ryan O'Neill. So basically, he's saying like, hey, I got information. You might want to take a look at this, and someone needs to come see me because I'm sick of being in here. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that
so
makes sense.
He's not going to give him all that, but he's giving him it, but at the same time. So I thought it was funny that this accident happened in Lewiston, where that kid was found, and he was from the Nez Perce Indian Reservation. So why would you just pick there of all places, the Nez Perce? Because he's a Native American, the kid that passed away, Nicholas Moswich, with these stab wounds, whose mom said he had been sober. They couldn't find any records from the Sheriff's Department or LPD responding to a crash. They requested they expand the search to October 12th, 14th, but didn't find anything. It says that Tyson Farley was stating that he was later punished for stopping at the scene of the crash. He stated that so-and-so broke both of his feet, the person that they unalived, supposedly. And that he stated he was in jail from October 28th through December 9th in Spokane County and Kootenai County. On October 31st, Detective Brett Payne of the Moscow Police Department stated that he was arrested in Airway Heights, Washington on November 23rd, which is Airway Heights and Lewiston are 5 miles away, or about 5 to 10, 15 miles away from each other. So on November 23rd, this is Tyson Farley. So for assault, he was then transferred to Kootenai County for a warrant. Neither detention center had any records of anyone having broken feet, which if you look at it, he didn't have broken feet. He was disoriented. He was in an accident, and they don't really say what his injuries were, but they were consistent with him wandering and having stab wounds from that incident, which would be if they fought somebody, he would have stab wounds and cut wounds all over his hand, which there's a document, the coroner provided that.
I want to back up because a lot of people have honed in on the broken feet, and that, so are you saying from what you're saying right there, you're saying that they have not confirmed those broken bones, but a lot of people, when you hear somebody say, or what do you, I apologize if I misheard that. So you're saying that the report did or did not say that he had broken feet?
No, this is what Tyson Farley's stating, that he was punished and that they, the person that was unalived had broken feet. There is also two things. There was also an informant that was shot by the Fetty brothers who was paralyzed because they thought he was an informant right before it was convicted. So to me, it could have two meanings. But the fact that he was in Lewiston, the fact that he was from the Nez Perce Ranch would be Nicholas Moswich, who died 2 days after the unaliving with stab wounds. That the DNA, which they send a DNA swab to Moscow because the coroner said this isn't right, this is weird, and they sent it to them because she literally thought that he could have been someone involved. This is just a random kid they found walking down the street who's 23 years old. And so this is what Tyson Farley is saying, and then Ryan O'Neill comes. Well, if you look in there, it says that on October 31st, I followed up with Special Agent O'Neill about the interview he conducted with Tyson Farley. Special Agent O'Neill stated that he had a long history with Tyson Farley and that he used to work as an informant for him, which is, there's your tie. There's your connection. And why wouldn't it go to the Moscow police? Why didn't anybody why wouldn't anybody from Moscow go and interview him? It was sent to Bill Thompson. Why would you immediately know to send it to the special agent? Which is weird to me, which shows that there's somebody in cahoots there. Right. Because if they were saying, and most people said that the FBI was doing their thing and Moscow was doing their thing, why would the prosecutor know, say from this, what we got before, hey, this needs to go to Special Agent Ryan? That's, a correlation. And they're also saying that he was a liar, that he was a dirty informant. So if anybody knows what a dirty informant is, it's an informant that is not credible in cases because they're committing crimes, still doing all the things that breaking the law. And then when they get caught, they provide information. Well, Detective Ryan O'Neill used multiple people at this time that were dirty, which if it came out, all of the Fetty brothers convictions would be overturned because it goes into the Garza, which is what they're trying to use for Bryan Kohberger, that they knew that it was tainted information because you can't have somebody testifying because they're not credible if they're out doing crimes and giving information to get themselves off the hook. Do you see what I'm saying? So that makes it not. That's actually their rules. So Detective Ryan knew that Farley was, and it states in here that he was a dirty informant. There's multiple people that he was using. So all those convictions they got would have been overturned. It would have been a big problem, right? Because of this. Yes. So that's why when Tyson Farley's saying, hey, buddy, like this isn't what I was promised, I'm going to run my mouth, we got a problem. Which there in self, if you look at all of this, the narrative is like the FBI, it got out of control. Normal cases just, 4 college students killed, hits mainstream for a minute and goes under the table. Not this one. The narrative got bigger than what they can control. And now you have a bunch of spinning people, Dylan's story, Bethany's story, all of them trying to make it sense of this puzzle that they made. And that's why everybody's fumbling. Even the Goncalvises, their statements are weird because if the FBI is controlling the narrative, you're going to be quiet, right? Because Xana's mom was an informant. Maddie's mom got busted, or stepmother got busted for drugs in the Kootenai County 1 month before, just like Xana's, and so did her stepfather. So what are the chances of all these kids being in the same house? And another long story short, Stanley Mortensen, anybody recognize that name? Is the prosecutor for Kootenai County where all these parents were arrested. Let's just leave it at that. Well, so, I mean, it is or it isn't, but it's funny that what is the chance you go to college and you all your friends that you move into a house with that nobody could afford all have ties to drugs, and 3 of the parents have been arrested for drug possession. Kind of convenient.
It is convenient. Yeah, it's convenient. And I guess I would be curious from and Betty Lou, I got the top dog for you right there. That was awesome. And this is an extremely important document, obviously, in the ISP. And my question to kind of piggyback and ask the roundtable as far as like a segue off of that is, now what you explained, if you look at it from like this happened and then this happened and then this happened, which led to that, right? That's very easy to follow.
One more thing, Tyson Farley's girlfriend is Tanya Rhodes. You ever seen the video footage of the DoorDash driver? Because Tanya Rhodes and him got busted. They live together still to this day. Got busted both times with mass amounts of drugs, and her case got dismissed. And the second one, the DoorDash driver, looks just like her, only with dyed red hair.
Oh, sorry, we had a little bit of an echo there. Well, that is crazy. And the point that I was about to make, though, is unfortunately that this happened, then that happened, then this led to, you know, X, Y, and Z, right? It's not palatable for a news segment. You can't go on there and be like, breaking news. There's a person with a list or a criminal record list that's longer than your right arm that was cooperating with an FBI informant handler who was aware of it and sent a coded message with just enough deliberately false information to put his handler onto the thing that knew that, oh, there was a house they used to run security on that they knew they were very well aware that what they were doing was illegal, where, oh, 4 kids were murdered in. And you can't say that.
And Nicholas Moswich, the kid that was unalive, the informant with the stab wounds, his criminal record included strangulation, stabbing, and assault with a deadly weapon.
Wow.
I mean, Jesus H. And so
strangulation of all things.
Do you
was
guys think
an actual conviction on his criminal docket sheet?
So do you guys think that the FBI is telling families involved and said news sources, please continue to run with this narrative? Because I don't think that's a stretch to think that the FBI could influence a mainstream media channel or the company that at least owns the 4 or 5 different big platforms to say, we need this for an ongoing investigation. Help us out. Like, I don't think that that's that hard.
Damage, Bertie. I think the kids became collateral damage. Why was the undercover circling that house? Why would, I mean, if you look at all the police corruption, I mean, sad to say, the CIA says that when they have a limited amount of people that can literally like die for the greater good of the United States. 9/11, Oklahoma City bombing. If you look at all the big things, there's 3 college students that could have found out something they shouldn't have. So what do? They put in the informant's ears that they know are crazy and they can't handle. They come in and they take care of the evidence, and now they're going to threaten them with literally, if you think of the collusion. I mean, it's a big stretch, but here it is. Here, why was Tyson Farley out? Why was he out? Why didn't he get released to go see his grandma? Because it looks like it. It looks like he was out doing good things to go visit grandma and take her chicken soup. Good things to go visit. You know what I mean? And then he gets picked up right after it. Like, there probably shouldn't be released out into the public because he's not safe.
And I believe the term that you had said, I think that what they call that term too, by the way, just with a quick Google search, like there's not a publicly acknowledged codified CIA rule that allows you or sets a specific number. It's called an acceptable loss or a justification model for acceptable loss. So of course they're not going to publicly acknowledge it, but they're like, it's the same thing where, you know, you would think in a military strategy terms of like, what's the loss of life going to be? Is it worth accomplishing this? If X amount of people have to die to get it done, is it worth that risk? It's umbrellaed into the CIA for certain narratives is what you're essentially saying that law is, to sum it up.
I think Bryan Kohberger was doing his internship with Pullman PD. He was doing something undercover because did anybody realize that right after he had the interview, the chief of police got indicted for sexual assault, SA, and resigned for Pullman, Washington, where he interviewed and then here you have a patsy because the chief is going to have somebody to come when the FBI comes in to throw him under the bus. Well, I got this guy that's working for me. He's a PhD student. He's weird. He's, you know what I mean? Throw him under the bus. And now you have the face to this catastrophe that they didn't control because somewhere out of it, the narrative got out of hand. And so however it was that they have to get rid of the witnesses, basically, let's get like the mob, Omerta, let's get rid of it. And now you have all these fumbling players because it wasn't supposed to go mainstream. It was supposed to be, 4 college kids die, maybe hits headlines for 2 or 3 days. They didn't expect it to snowball. And then you have a bunch of fumbling idiots that are trying to make a narrative out of something that should have never turned out like this.
I agree. And well said. I mean, I think that the way that you laid it out there was exactly what people need to hear. It's not sugar-coated. It's not said in a way like it's one of the best things about the Roundtable is that, this is a real conversation. Like I've said backstage, and if you're ever on the Roundtable, the quote advice for whatever it's worth that I give people is like, just treat this like a FaceTime call with your buddies. Like talk like we're just group chatting right now, because that's how the truth is portrayed. There is something inside of people that when you hear a certain tone, when you hear somebody get passionate about it, like you just did, BoringBettyLou, like you can just tell that you know, you've looked into this, you've made the connections, you've pointed it out, and people resonate with that much more than just a very proper like. And just in breaking news,
it could be you, Bertie. It could be me. It could be Deb. It could be the next ones when we don't fit their narrative and they need somebody to pick.
Exactly. And it just hits different when you say it that way instead of like. And now breaking as we get on air, Bryan Kohberger was sniffing panties and sitting on the cinder block. Right? Like, it's just unbelievable. And so great work. And thank you for telling me to have that prep. That was very informative. I want to move on and get all three of your thoughts on this now. I'll make this bigger. What are your guys' thoughts on this whole, actually, I'll put us down for a second. Is there a bug shield on these court documents and on the photos released? Because I don't know about you all. I was slightly shocked to see these new crime scene photos where there's a extremely tinted bug shield on the front of a car, but yet you don't see it here. And it certainly doesn't look like it's here, at least in that little spot there. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Namastella or Deb J, anything?
I talk too much. Let's go ahead.
No. I'm just
I was going to say, I thought I did. I'm trying to be, I thought I was just trying to be super mouse quiet. It's more the same. And honestly, if I wanted to make my career, I'd be the person who goes breaking news, and I would just spill it. Because these people are being paid. They are shilling for these companies owned by these 13 families, yada, 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 conspiracy theory. But I would be that person. I would want to be that person. Why wouldn't you? Woodward and Bernstein, right? But yeah, the bug shield. I was shocked that they put out the pictures of the luminol. All this luminol. I was floored. I was like, "Woo! Did somebody accidentally slip that in?" And wow. Yeah, I'm totally confused by this whole thing.
What's your take, Namastella, on the countertops too? Because people have speculated that the empty cups and the bags on the counter are rearranged because they attempted to clean up and then place that stuff back in those spots. So if you've noticed in some of the pictures, it's kind of like, well, what's different in this picture? One of the explanations that I saw, I believe it was on the Discord, maybe somebody had sent it to me, but it was like, did they wipe up the luminol stuff to hide that it had showed traces of blood and then try to put everything down in the same place, which it would make sense when things are at slightly different angles and maybe they accidentally sprayed objects with the luminol and they're like, fuck, we can't get this off that object. We just got to take it out and try to cover it up and make it look like it's the same.
And I think you're spot on about that. Wasn't it Phoenix who had a picture where there was a plant that was knocked over? And then the plant that was all cleaned up and put back.
Stuff?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I do believe somebody did a cleanup. I do believe there was a whole cleanup. That's why the 8 hours. I do absolutely believe that. Yeah. Same with the beer pong table. Those two cups that were laying. I don't know. All of y'all, I'm pretty sure most of us have played beer pong, especially at a wobbly table with those stupid solo cups. When it gets knocked down, it swivels and just keeps rolling until it falls off of something. But those two cups are just sitting there so carefully.
Yes.
No, I think so too. But the luminol, that floored me. I'm sorry, it floored me. And then it explained why those chairs were so dirty too.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't get it all before the police came. I don't know, but I was floored that was there. I was like, oh, somebody screwed up.
Yeah, and I believe the technical term we're saying luminol is maybe an umbrella term. A lot of people in the Hive are saying that it's amino black, but regardless, it's something.
There's two. There's luminol is one. Luminol is the name that they use. Luminol is coming from that background. Luminol actually is the stronger one. They have two different ones. If they have one, they think that they don't. It depends on what you're doing the surfaces. So they have one that's made for different type of surfaces. It's almost like when they do handprints, they used to use the old black powder. And now they have another one that comes out. Luminol will actually glow brighter on something that's been sitting there for longer. That's why they use luminol. It's kind of harder. They use the other one for stuff that's newer blood. Luminol actually reacts brighter when it's had a longer time. Like the DNA has been able to sit longer. So they'll use the two of them. It's almost like a different different. It's kind of like having two brands, but luminol reacts best when the blood has sat longer than
With black
that's why they
light.
use the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like somebody was almost like they put it in there just to, for lack of a better term, screw with us. You just be like, yep, here we go. Yep.
I don't
you're all
think
right.
they've
There's
screwed with
nothing
us
you can
one
do.
bit. Yeah.
You hear about the
Yeah.
deleted photos that one of the ISP officers was taking the photographs?
No.
Admitted
Yes,
to
I just
deleting
heard
why
about
there's
that today.
sequential
Yep.
pictures missing.
Yep.
Just heard
He
about
said
that
it was
today. I
blurry
was
and
like,
he deleted it and then decided that the sequential would just go on to the next picture, but then he found out that it didn't. Oopsie. Oh well.
oops, whoopsie doodles.
Yeah.
I also
Don't look.
think it's interesting that the majority of the pictures were taken at night. I mean, they were on site at noon. Why did it
Well-
take them till 8 o'clock at night to start taking pictures?
I can actually
So-
give you the time frame because
Yeah, go for it.
the ISP is disputing it. One of the officers is actually disputing it. So Gunderson, which is Tyson Farley's cousin's wife, is the only person that went up to the room by himself with his body cam
Yep.
off because they came in. Moscow PD came in and took pictures of the crime scene. They came in at 2 o'clock, took pictures. There was no knife sheath. Gunderson went up. They have video footage of him going up, body cam footage. His thing came off. And then he was in the room alone and then left there. They brought in ISP, Bill Thompson, and all of them. They went up and, whoa, there's the knife sheath half sticking out from underneath Madison Mogan's body. Why wasn't it there when
Wow.
anybody else was in there? And Gunderson is, his cousin is married to Tyson Farley. Interested. And he has prior convictions for tampering with body cam footage. He already pled guilty 2 years
Right.
prior for
Right.
tampering with body cam footage.
I did. So I did see that with the previous charge, and then, oh man, I don't remember.
And they're saying ISP is saying that the ISP officer said that he got called by Brett Payne to come out and be like the acting to take photographs, and that he arrived at 4 p.m. And when he got there, Brett Payne and his partner, I forget what his name, Blacker, Detective Payne and Blacker arrived, as what Payne is saying, at 4 p.m. Okay. And Talbot was already there. Talbot's disputing that, actually saying that that's a lie, because Talbot says he arrived at 2:41 and Payne and Blacker were already there, and Blacker briefed him on the scene.
Right.
Why are they lying and saying that they were there at 4 p.m.? And this deputy is saying, no, ISP is saying, no, they were there when I arrived at 2:41 because they briefed me on what was going on. They're the ones that called him out there. But Brett Payne's saying, oh no, when we arrived at 4, Talbot was already out there. And he's like, no, I don't think so. You're not going to drag me through this.
Okay, so
And then this comes off their interviews. This comes off their actual documentation for ISP.
yeah. Well, you would have a field day as a defense attorney with this. That's what's also very confusing about this entire preview. Like you'd have a field day. That's what I was saying earlier in the stream about if you're an up and coming defense attorney that wants to get your name out there. Hey, this is the case.
Bias.
Yes. And
if you cared about the actual person, not just making money, like me, if I did it, I would have had a field day, because to me, it's about what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And I'm tired of the government just doing whatever they want.
Amen.
You know, and Taylor was, to me, she filed motions and she was good, but she didn't. You could have literally, with all the, look at what we're finding, and none of us are lawyers or attorneys or detectives.
Right. Yeah, but how do you fight when they're not literally? He's on trial for murder, and he's saying, "I'm
because
innocent.
you have nothing to lose." What was he going to lose? He got 4 life sentences. If you think about that, you have nothing to lose. If you're going to lose, you're going to lose. I mean, to me, I would never do a life sentence. I'd rather take the firing squad, because I'm not going to sit in that jail cell for the rest of my life. I mean, really. But if you look at it, you had nothing to lose, because in the end, the only two options you had were winning or losing.
Yeah,
and he admitted defeat. I would have made it. I would have made so much stuff in their head with all you need is a bit of a doubt. Get in front of the jury. You could have done that.
You got
getting the
Steve
people on the
G
stand that did the cell phone data, getting the Bill Thompson on there. I mean, at some point, the farce is going to crack, because you can only lie so much until you forget what your story is. When it's the truth, you don't have to think about it. When you're lying, you make mistakes, like Dylan, like Bethany, because you can't keep it all together. It starts coordinating together, and it starts getting jumbled.
God, you're getting me fired up. You're getting me fired up, because it's like it's so refreshing, and it's just awesome. I hope people in the Hive too can recognize and also just appreciate that. Like, people are not afraid anymore. There was a time.
Let's just say I've had experience where I was like Bryan Kohberger. I was one of those people. So I know what it's like, and I know where you're put up against the wall without going to my history. But I was one of those people that had I not fought and been willing to do whatever, I wouldn't be here right now. So that's why it weighs so hard on me, because I know a lot of people that didn't fight because they were so afraid. Well, the truth is you only got two options, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't fight, your only answer is what you get. And he should have. And to me, I can't believe he did that. To me, he was coerced, because that kid was not willing to fight. He was willing to fight, like he was, and you could see it. He's smart enough, and the PhD student, no, because half of those motions, I guarantee you, he came up with. It wasn't her doing. I guarantee you half of that knowledge that kid was fighting on was from what he knew, because that kid was smart, and he knew criminology, and he knew behavior. That's what he studied. There's literally criminology, and there's a study of criminals. He studied the behavior and what goes on. That kid knew. He was a PhD student. He wasn't stupid. People don't make it that far.
But if his family was being threatened,
that's what I think.
That would be enough for him to take the plea,
because that's all he had.
Right,
he's a mama's boy. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right, everybody
keeps his mom every day.
When is he going to file the appeal? Why isn't he filing the appeal?
I don't think he's going to. I don't think. I think that he's afraid.
His current lawyer needs to file intent of an appeal, and then they have to find an appeal attorney.
But according to Phoenix, when she called there, they said that they're not handling it and they have nothing to do with the Bryan Kohberger case anymore. According to Phoenix, that's what Phoenix reported, because she said that she called there.
I thought it was protocol that Ann Taylor would have to file the intent of a.
She would be the one that has to do it, and she stated their office has nothing to do with it anymore, which I find funny.
Well,
because she would always be his attorney, even going back. She would be his attorney. She may not be representing him, but she's the one that took him to court, and so everything would be referenced to her per the law.
Right.
That's how I know it's called basically. She should have never been able to, by law, she could never have represented him. I don't care how many documents she filed. She could have never represented him because of the fact that she represented two of the other parents, basically the defendants in that case.
But
the victims in that case.
She removed herself from the parents' case.
It doesn't matter. Even if she removed them, she had already had intimate knowledge of those people's cases. It goes back to the fact that there was private stuff discussed and stuff in her prior history, in Xana's mom's prior history, in her background. So she's representing somebody that killed them. That's across. I forget what the exact word is, but it's a conflict of interest. Excuse me, and that's a law. She would have. He should have had a alternate state defender, which is a state-appointed attorney. The public defender's office could not have represented him. That's the law, and I know that for a fact because I've been there. She couldn't. So how she got to, even if she recused herself, it's against the law. That's what I'm saying. That there from the get-go, there's something wrong.
Well, this whole case is so full, as my grandmother used to say, so full of crap, it's running uphill. And
sandwiches that are gross. That's what this case is.
Right. But I mean, if for him to get an appeal attorney, think about it. This person would have to be out there doing what we've been doing for months.
And they have to be from Idaho because they can't be out of state.
With all this released information, they'd have to be digging into it, studying it 20 hours a day. And at the bottom line, if they come up with the same conclusion that the Aryan Knights were involved with this, then they've got to have somebody that'll back them with enough money to go into witness protection in some other country.
Well, Idaho, their state law
isn't going to be safe.
Their state law state. So even if there's an attorney out of state, so say California, Idaho doesn't acknowledge them. They have to be an attorney in Idaho. So everybody is like this, and I know if nobody notices, they're like, hey, you know what I mean? Money talks. Who's going to go up against them? Because they're all good old boys, and they all go to the golf club. I know an attorney that used to be a lawyer, that used to be a LAPD detective, who saw so much dirt that he became a public criminal attorney. And when that dude walked in, I've seen DAs throw their cases off the table because that guy could get a murder conviction down to shaking hands, and the guy gets 2 years plus probation because of who you know. So there's a prime example of who you know who's going to go up against them. They all go to the golf clubs, eat at each other's table.
What circuit court, federal circuit court, Idaho falls under?
That's a good question. What does that? I said,
Well,
that's a good question. What does that?
The same judge that convicted the Fetty brothers is the same ones that convicted the head of the Aryan Knights from jail. It's the same judge's name on all the documents for the attorney generals on the DOJ website. So I'm
was
assuming
this
it's
a federal
the good old
case.
boys
Was
of
it
Bill.
a federal case or a state case?
That was the federal case out of Idaho. It was the same judge. It was actually
Okay.
the same judge that did it for all the charges for them. Actually sentenced them. The same judge. I noticed that because I thought that was funny. And this is off the actual indictments on the U.S. District Attorney, United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Washington. It was the same judge, Judge Thomas O'Rice, that convicted them, the head of the Aryan Knights, that's in prison, and the 4 other people underneath them, the same exact judge. So I'm assuming it's kind of like the good old boys right there too.
Well, so let me ask you guys a kind of final question to wrap up the roundtable, and let that be this. We just were briefly touching on Bryan Kohberger doing an appeal or not doing an appeal. I would say, and as I'm asking this, Hive, type of 1 if you think he's going to appeal, type of 2 if you think he's not. And as you guys are typing, I'm going to ask this question to the roundtable. And do you think that Bryan Kohberger putting the intent to appeal would soften the narrative and make people's curiosity peak? Or do you think it would only enrage the narrative and the media machine will go further and harder to make sure people believe he's guilty no matter what? I'm curious. Go ahead, Deb. You think 2? You think he's he's cooked?
That the media machine would be told to flame the narrative because this is all a controlled from A to Z. And if it's the elites in control, that 1% of 1% of 1%, it's just like everything else they do. You know, all the other psyops that we've been handed through our history that we now find out is BS. You know, so maybe 40 years from now, they'll find out that Bryan Kohberger was just a smart kid working on his PhD. But I don't know that if he files for appeal, that anybody's going to let this go that's in power. They're going to go ballistic because they don't want this to come out. Look at the mess it is right now. So many lies have been told and so many people were involved in so many lies. Heads would have to roll. And those people are not going to sit back and say, yeah, go ahead, take my head. No way.
Nope.
Bryan Kohberger doesn't need to appeal because I guarantee I'm willing to bet my car on this. In 6 months, there's going to be either a suicide or Bryan Kohberger was killed in jail.
They're going to Epstein
and he's going to disappear. Because let me tell you, from somebody that has firsthand knowledge, they don't go after serial killers. They could care less. What all this BS that they're going to essay him and all this stuff here doesn't happen. You know what they do that to people that hurt babies? That's what they don't like. They don't like people that assault children or like that. They could care less. Just like Bundy, everybody was friends with them. People, it doesn't work like that. So this narrative that they're releasing video footage of him and all this stuff that he's filing all these charges that he's, disciplinary. This is all the narrative putting in. So when it comes out that he gets unalived and disappears, just like Epstein, nobody's going to think different. I think the deal that he made was that he was going to ride it. He'll handle this out. And for some reason, he's going to disappear into the woodwork and you'll never see him again. His family's never speaking out. And I don't think that because there's too much corruption now, he couldn't have, all those charges would get overturned because of dirty informants. All the dirty stuff came out. It's too late now. They could never allow him to appeal because they would be basically, for lack of another term, nailed and screwed. You know what I mean? They couldn't. It's too far gone now. So what they're going to do is they're going to make a deal and he's going to go underground and just disappear. And he's the perfect person to do that because he's autistic, socially awkward. He doesn't want to be out there. He'll never say anything.
Well said. I agree. Namastella?
I'm going to go with a little bit of both. If he does do an appeal, yeah, the mainstream media will freak out. They will freak out. But if he doesn't, let's go with option number 3. Remember when he came into that plea deal and he had highlights in his hair and his eyebrows and he looked tan and lovely.
That was a good haircut for jail. I wish I had.
Absolutely.
That was a pretty fantastic. And his hair was straight. I was like, dude, you've been in Bermuda?
Option number 3 is that, he goes, and then they did that jail footage. Oh, just so you make sure he's there. He's there. Option number 3 is there's no appeal.
anything that big, and no inmates wear black. There's not a jail that wears black and red in any institution in the state of California. I looked it up, but he was wearing black pants with red shoes, and he was the biggest cell. It was like a penthouse.
Yeah,
never seen that before.
Exactly.
With a rack on the wall like that. They don't have that because it's a threat, especially if it's in the medical ward.
They told you to watch out for AI deceptive videos too, which I thought was just an odd last sentence of that article of like, well, you guys have to be aware that AI could put out fake videos as well. And I'm thinking to myself, it's a very weird thing for an official statement to say. Like, you guys know, is that your jail or is it not your jail? Why would you put that last sentence in there of?
Well, I want to know how his behavior things were put in, that his grievances got put in, because the penal code for Department of Justice, which prison is a lot different than county jail. No, no reprisals can be given. So for them to put those actually out there, they could be sued because they are literally putting out business that could get him assaulted, that could get him injured, because now it's making him seem like he's a snitch. They literally put the stuff out there because he's a snitch now. In their mind, now that's when somebody would go after him because he's a snitch.
Therein is the setup for him to be taken out.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. Deb.
They're not. Yep. Whoever's running this narrative has written a couple books like Stephen King.
Yeah.
Because anybody that's been on the inside knows that none of this goes on. None of those cells don't look like that. Clothes don't look like that. And you said exactly. If you look at all the photos of him, he is sucked up, skinny. He looks like his eyes are popping out of his head.
He's railed up.
Looks like he's an Ethiopian. But man, he looked like he was in Jamaica having a Mai Tai when he showed up in court. I've never seen anybody that's under fluorescent lights as long as he's been, 2 or 3 years? That literally looks like he had a spray tan. He was hanging out with Donald Trump in the spray tan machine with a haircut.
Oh, no. Jeffrey Epstein in Aruba drinking Mai Tais. That's option number 3.
Oh, Jesus H. Well, I just want to say thank you all for a third consecutive incredible roundtable. You guys were all great. BoringBettyLou, Deb J, Namastella. Namastella, I owe you an apology for tripping up on my words trying to say your name. Los Estella for 5 minutes.
No, you're good. Actually, that's my last name, so it's like built into my DNA. Laws.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Okay.
I doxed myself. There you go.
I use my last name because it's really hard and everybody gets it wrong, so I just give up. I just rather be Betty Lou.
People get mine wrong all the time, and I'm like, it's so easy. I don't understand. Yeah, but no apology necessary.
Yeah, well, yes, and I'm glad I saw your comment too flying by when it said no Namastella. So I'm glad that we got that figured out. BoringBettyLou, I believe for BoringBettyLou, we need to drop the boring and just have Betty Lou. I mean, awesome job for having all that prepared on the ISP document. Deb J, thank you so much for popping up here. I always appreciate hearing from the Hive. It's the last Sunday of every evening. While I have everybody here quick, I do just want to give a brief update. The whole live day getting canceled, I put like a 2.5-minute video up about the PayPal being hacked. I just want to address rather to everybody that left a comment showing support and, that they wanted to make sure everything was fine. I just want to say thank you genuinely. Everything is fine. We're digging into it. It's very odd because
I was gonna say, I got a message from you on Messenger that asked me, that was like a hack. That literally asked me if I wanted to buy some type of investor or something like that. And I thought that was weird.
Happening.
But it would explain, it was like right before the day that you canceled the live. Like it literally said, how long have you been a member or, a subscriber? And then I was like, okay, this is weird because that's not even how Birdie talks. And then it was like, do you want to blah, 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 kind of like buy insurance at Lake Chickamaucomico or one of those type of things that you could tell was spam.
Oh, no.
It's sad. It's honestly, look, here's what I'm telling you guys. I'm doing my absolute best to take care of it. If it does cause any inconvenience for you, just know that for the time being, I'm having to take steps with my email that I'm using for the Hive Mind Finds I'm having to use it for my own personal PayPal account, my own personal Coinbase. It's not me. Okay. I have one account. I have a second account that's not even under the name Birdie anymore because I don't want him to mimic that. And I'm not going to say that name, obviously, on stream. It's ridiculous. I think it's sad. I know that it's being done intentionally, but I just want to say, without getting into the weeds of that, thank you to everybody that, showed support. And I apologize for that live dig. This Friday, we will do a live dig on the body cam and all that. And I think on Tuesday, you guys are going to be super, super excited about the updates that we have moving forward, just how to prevent all this. I'll own the mistake. Giving out a Gmail probably was a little bit, I don't know what I want to say, like assumptive. It's kind of like the quote that I always say where good people assume everyone's a good person. You don't think anybody having nefarious intent behind it. Well, I kind of had to eat my own words on that shit. But yeah, I saw all the comments, and thank you all. And to Namastella, Deb J, and BoringBettyLou, thank you all for popping up here this evening. You guys did amazing.
Pop your collar because they're so unintelligent that they can't join the Hive. So instead, they're going to try to hack the Hive, but they don't realize that they're just not smart enough all the way around. So pop your collar, because if you're that important that they got to try to do that instead of participating, hats off to you. Go in the corner with your dunce hat, not the silver hat.
I love, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, ready for greatness.
Yeah, well, thank you. And the Hive is gaining a lot of momentum. Like I said, we got exciting updates coming on Tuesday. And with that, Hive, I hope that everybody has a wonderful rest of their Sunday evening. Get some great sleep, go out, crush the Monday. And I will be back on Monday evening, so tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central. And we are going to be continuing to dive into the shit that the mainstream media thinks they can bury and pull over our face and that we don't catch, but not in this chat, not in this Hive. And I just want everybody to know I appreciate you all. So with that being said, I hope everybody has a great night. Cheers, everyone.
Good night. Bye.
Thanks, Hive. Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for